Hello and welcome to Deliberately Creative. I'm Stephanie and I'd like to welcome you to episode number 31 of Doodle Gems. In this episode, you're going to learn how to make petrified wood in a real pretty bird's nest setting that has a little owl sitting on top. Come on with me and let's get started. Okay, so we're going to get started here. We're going to be doing this with basically 6 colors and a colorless blender. So I have Tuscan red, dark umber, dark brown, goldenrod, ginger root, white, and a colorless blender. Then there will also be the Signal Uniball white pen and Pigma Micron, and I'm using an 05 just because that's what I grabbed. So we'll get started here. All right, so to get started here, we are going to put, I'm just grabbing the dark umber to be my pencil that I sketched my cabochon in with. Just a rough oval. It can be whatever shape you want it to be. If you want a heart shape, go for it. If you want a square, go for it. This is your doodle. And petrified wood can look like so many things. It can be shaped into so many shapes. It's a lot of fun. Especially when you think about how it was once a living, growing tree, and it turned into a piece of fossilized stone. It's pretty amazing. I'm going to go ahead and grab the ginger root, which is sort of a cool, creamy color. It's not super warm. It's warmish, but it has almost a gray tone to it. And I'm just going to lay in some color. This is pretty free form. There will be some lines in it that will mimic some of the rings that you would find in a piece of wood. But petrified wood is so variable that you can do pretty much anything you want and call it petrified wood, because it's all just mineralized, and the minerals change the colors of the stone, of the wood, into when it's changing into stone. Now I've picked up the Tuscan red. If a stone has red tones or orangey tones in it, if the petrified wood has red or red-orange kind of tones, that means that there's some iron oxide that colored the quartz, the silica, that is making the actual rock. Petrified wood doesn't actually have any wood left in it at all. What happened was that wood fell down, the tree fell down or was blown down or something happened, and it ended up falling into either a marsh or a swamp or something like that. So here's the goldenrod, and I want to put some of that in here. And I'm just layering the colors. I'm not pressing really hard yet. I'll be using the colorless blender to blend some of those tones together. So the wood fell into a marsh or someplace where when it fell, it was completely covered and sank. Usually it sunk down into the bottom into mud. And what the mud does is it blocked oxygen from getting to the tree. So while it's under the water, it starts losing the cellulose that makes the wood, and minerals start filling in the holes that were left from the cellulose going away. It's pretty interesting. It's pretty neat how nature can work these things out. Now I'm just taking the dark brown and doing a bit of shaping. It's kind of like you're carving the stone with your shadows. And if you notice, what I'm trying to do here is I've got my darkest color around the edge, then I've got a medium tone, and then I've got a lighter tone, and then I have the lightest tone. And what I want to have happen is that dark edge and the medium edge going into this lighter edge, they all need to feather together and just blend seamlessly from one to the other. So because I use that super dark umber for my outline, I'm using this dark brown to blend it into the Tuscan red. See how that's starting to blend? And you see how this is really a harsh line right here? Now I don't want it to be a harsh line. So I'm going to take that ginger root, I'm going to work that. And if you look, working it here, that color is slipping around on this paper. And it's blending out, smoothing out a little bit, and I'm able to mush it around some. Now I want to take this colorless blender up here and start working around the edges and working my way in. This is another way to get those colors to feel a little more seamless, to give you that dark around the edge where it works up towards the lighter colors. See how that's going there? That's coming along. That's coming along. There's going to be a little bit more blending. A little bit more blending. And there's going to be a little bit of detail work in the stone here. I want to give it some of those lines like it would be rings from a tree. And I also want to work a little bit more color right here because it seems to have separated. It seems to have separated some. So I want to work some more of that Tuscan red in. But if you notice, I'm sort of working it a little more scratchy than I usually do. That's because I'm going to end up with some of these lines becoming the rings that are going through. So I'm going to the opposite side and sort of pulling some lines across. You're not going to see all of these lines by the time I'm done. You will not see all of those lines, but you will see some. And I'm going to work a few lines the other way that are like almost more like cracks. And if you notice what I did, by taking one of these lines or two of these lines around that space where it was a lot lighter and it looked like it was separating, taking a dark line next to that camouflaged it. So now it doesn't look quite so jarring of a separation. It looks like it actually goes together. I'm going to take a couple more lines over here. And then the colorless blender again to work some of these lines. Some of these lines are going to blend out. They're going to feel a lot less obvious by the time I'm done. Some of them are going to stay very obvious. But it gives it texture. It gives it shape and form. Remember, we're doing something that's fooling the eye. There isn't a real stone sitting on this piece of paper. We're just fooling people. When we build our nest around it with the stone in the middle, we're just fooling people's eyes into thinking that there's something real sitting there. But look at that. That's looking really pretty. So I'm going to go ahead and take my white and start giving it just a little bit of highlight, just this soft, dull highlight, not the actual harsh, bright highlights yet. I won't say harsh, but the really bright highlight. This is just that soft glow going around there. Look at that. Just a little soft glow. I'm going to grab that dark umber and bring it in along a couple of these red lines. Just a couple, not all of them. And a couple of these up here. Look at that. We have a really pretty piece of petrified wood. And some people call it agatized wood. Agatized. Some people will call it opalized because opals are made from silicon and water. And petrified wood is made from silicon and water. And many times petrified wood will actually have pieces of opal showing up in them. This one doesn't happen to have that, but it's a real pretty piece of wood anyway. And there is that. I won't put the white highlights on it until after we've got the setting built. Now the setting on this is going to be sort of like an owl's nest going around it. And to start that off, I am going to make a bezel. And I'm not too worried if I get a little bit wobbly. It's okay. Having it go a little wandery, that's fine, because this setting is like a bundle of sticks that's been wrapped around it to make like a nest. There we go. And remember, I don't mind having those little spaces show up right now. I might take the dark umber down inside there, or I might not. I don't know. But to start off with making the nest, I am just going to make little double line scallops going around. I'm just going around. It actually makes it look kind of like a flower. You could go that direction with it if you wanted to. If you didn't want to put the owl on top, you could certainly make it flowers, flower petals. But I'm going to go ahead and now what I'm doing, watch what I'm doing here. I'm starting about the middle of one of my petals. And I am drawing a little line. I'm skipping my double line. I drew another sort of rounded line and I'm skipping that double line, and then I'm meeting back into the setting, the bezel. Now I'm just going to go parallel to those lines that I just did. And they can be thicker, they can be thinner. It doesn't matter. What we're doing is we are starting to weave these lines around. Not really weaving. What we're doing is we're just drawing the second bump here, the secondary ones, as if they're behind everything. Do you see how that's happening here? When you come up and you skip, that makes it look like this line is going over the top. Then we're coming over here and we're skipping, which makes it look like this line is going over the top, and then we're joining back down. And if you look here, I'm doing some of these sort of shallow, some of these scallops shallow. Some of the scallops will be higher bump. It doesn't matter, because remember, these are your foundation for your nest. And I have not seen an owl's nest or an eagle's nest that didn't have all kinds of bits and pieces sticking out funny. It is amazing that they can get these nests to hang out on a tree or on top of a pole. It's kind of beyond me how amazing that is. So now what I'm going to do is just start making some little bits that are swirly twigglies, some that are starting behind, and some I'm going to bring in front. And if you want it to go in front, all you have to do is make sure that you fill it in, so it looks like it's going over the top of the parallel lines below. And some of these little twiggly bits are going to be full swirls. Some are just going to be little points, like sticks that are just sticking out funny. Just sticking out funny sticks. But some are going to be swirlies, because if you've been around me long enough, you know I like the swirlies. You gotta have a swirl every once in a while. Just like a little girl with a fun twirly skirt dress. You just have to swirl it around sometimes. I remember going to the playground and spinning in circles with my fancy twirly dresses. And it's a lot of fun to do that. And there's no rhyme or reason. I'm just going to work my way around so that it's kind of balanced. It's just pretty and simple. It can be as detailed or as simple as you want it to be. And I try to do things so it's not too detailed, but I like details. I like details a lot. And so I will continue doing this to my heart's content if given the chance. But I will try to not do too many in this video, because we want to get through the video fairly quickly. But I'm getting close to having come all the way around. And if you look, we're just doing overs and unders, over and under, around and through. Isn't that how we tie our shoes? Sorry. It's just one of those things. Sometimes I give myself song cues, and I have to bite my tongue and not sing songs. Because you guys aren't here to listen to me sing a song. And you're probably just as thankful that I'm not doing that. All right, look at that. So now you can go in and put some little shadowy bits where lines cross. Where lines cross or where lines come up to make it look like it's rounded and has highlights. It's all up to you. It's all up to you. Generally, if it comes from behind something, it will have a shadow. If it comes in front, it's usually a highlight, but not always. Because sometimes if things come in front, they've just come from behind. And the light needs to have a place that it's going or come from. So sometimes when it's on the top, you just keep going with the shadow. And sometimes you don't. You generally want to make sure that if something was dark underneath, that you have a light on top of it. The piece that's going over needs to have some light. All right, so now we are going to put the little owl in. Okay? And this owl is really very simple. What I'm doing is I'm going up probably about 3/4 of an inch, just because that's about the size that looks right to me. And I'm going to make a little arch. And then that little arch is going to get 3 or 4 little bumps. And then I'm going to draw a little curved line from the top edge down to the nest, and a curved line on the other side. Then I'm going to make a little scoop. This is going to be under his chin, and then another curved line. And this curved line pretty much matches the one that we did for the wing. Okay. Then we're going to give him another little shoulder. And this is a smaller piece because this one's away from us. This is farther around him. So by doing that and making it narrower, it makes it look like that wing is on the back side of him. That's all it takes. I'm going to draw my little feather lines in, however many you want to draw in. I think I'm going to do 4 or 5 feathers. And now you've got the under his chin part, and I'm going to go clear out over his shoulders with the rest of his face. It's going to come up, and it's going to come up. He's going to get, I'm giving him little pointy spots for ears, or feathery bits, his little feathers. He's going to have just a triangle beak and big circles for his eye orbit areas. But then it's going to have a smaller circle in the middle. And I'm not doing gems for his eyes. You could certainly do gems for his eyes if you wanted to. But I am just going to put little dash lines around the center spot here. And then I'm going to leave a little spot white, but color the rest of that in black. So his pupil spaces are black with just a little white spot. And if you don't leave a big enough white spot for yourself, you can always put that in with your white pen. And then he's getting some fluffy feathers on his tummy and chest. And I'm sort of just making U shapes and offsetting them so that they come up in the middle of the U above. Just pretty basic, easy going. And I'm bringing it down into the nest area there. If there's holes where you think that you would actually see the wing, you want to just draw it in. Just draw it in. Now his little tummy bits, his tummy feathers, I'm going to put little long skinny triangles or just double lines to make it look like his feathers have some pattern to them. His head, I'm just going to make some little tiny dashed lines around one side, across the top of his head, and into that other ear space. His shoulders, I'm just doing a little dashed line to show that his shoulders have some shape. Nothing major, nothing big. This is not a detailed owl drawing. This is stylized. It would be, if this were on a piece of jewelry, you wouldn't end up with a super detailed owl. It would be stylized. Look at that. I want a little bit more of a shadow line up under his chin and a tiny little bit on his beak. Okay, on this wing over here, we're going to put just a few little lines and just sort of darken it up just a smidge because that wing is farther away than this wing. This wing right here is closer to us. So you're going to see a little bit more of it. And look at that. We have a pretty piece of wood with an owl sitting in his nest. And all we're going to do now is get our white. And I'm just starting it off over here on the paper, on this cardboard, just to get it rolling. And I want to put a little white spot here, there, maybe a couple little white lines here. And then I think this one's going to have sort of little teardroppy shape. And then there's a little bit of a line, tut, tut, tut. And I do want to have just a tiny bit more dark right down in that bezel area. Just like that, just a little bit. And we, my friends, are just about done. If you like this video, I would love it if you would please click the like, share it with your friends. I have over 30 Doodle Gem videos teaching step by step how to do so many different kinds of doodle gems. So if you have a friend who would like to learn, you can point them right to my channel, and I've got a playlist with all of my Doodle Gem videos in it. I would also love it if you would leave me a comment and let me know what you liked. And if you didn't like something, let me know. I'd love to do things better each time I make a video. And please subscribe if you aren't already a subscriber. And remember, go out and do something creative. Take care. Bye-bye.